the Prophet's marriages, of course, we already talked about before the Prophet being married to Khadija and then to Sauda bin Zama. And so the Prophet had been married to Khadija from the age of 25 to 50, and then to Sauda from age 51 to 55, and they were sole wives. That is, he only had one wife in each of those cases during the time he was married to those women up to then. And then without divorcing Sauda, he married another woman, and eventually, in actually quite a short time, between 624 and 629, from age 55 to 60, he had married a total of 11 women and also had 2 slave concubines. And because Khadija had died, and one of the wives he married later died shortly afterwards, so he only had 9 wives simultaneously. And after the year 629, he took no more wives by a Quranic command. And this was connected with a kind of complaint that arose amongst the wives and led to a very interesting history that has never been fully elaborated by modern historians, but has mention in quite a few verses in the Quran, and a lot of the Quran, a number of verses in the Quran can be connected with this. And there's a great controversy over the reason for these marriages, but very likely he was trying to beget a son, and of course he must also have liked all of the women. It's quite inadmissible to say that, the Prophet married these women just because they were presented to him, or that people wanted to promote marriage to their relatives, so they made him marry some women or something, and so he was compelled to marry the women. No. He was not. He had to like the women to get married. Now, sometimes it's said that they were married in order to secure alliances with various tribes, and that would be a reasonable assumption, but it's not the case. The women didn't belong to various tribes. They were all Qurayshi women except for 2 of them. And the 2 who were not Qurayshi women were actually war captives whom he offered marriage to as a way of putting them in a higher status on an equal footing with all of the other wives. So those 2 war captives, he said, if you want to marry me and become a Muslim, then you have the status of wife and be equal to all the other wives. And they took that. And all of his wives, except for Aisha, had been previously married. And a number of them were war widows, quite a few of them actually. And many of them, well, certainly several of them were very close relatives, like his first cousins and so on, whom he might have felt an obligation to take care of also. Now, one other thing that exists over this controversy, of course, this is the area of the controversy that came over the book, The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie, and also other writings that have been presented like that too about it. And to some extent, the tradition of the actual evolution of this story was altered later by either Aisha or her relatives who transmitted most of the tradition about the Prophet's domestic arrangements, and saying Aisha was the beloved one of the Prophet's wives. Well, Aisha naturally wanted to remember that she was the beloved one of the Prophet's wives because she never married anyone else. And when the Prophet married her in 624, she was only a co-wife with Sauda bin Zama. And then she watched as he married successively all these other women as well, which diminished the amount of time that she would have to spend with the Prophet. And the Prophet had a principle of dividing his time equally among the wives. So each wife got a distinct day for herself. Of course, probably none of them got days when the Prophet was busy with military affairs and other things, so that would also create a lack of attention. And so Aisha wanted later, or maybe her relatives did, because we can't tell who developed that idea, that she was more beloved than the other Prophet's wives. Well, actually not. The Prophet showed her no special consideration when he decided to divorce all of his wives at once. And a Quranic verse came down about that, which is part of the Quran that refers to that if you want, to go, you can go and do whatever you want. And if you want to stay, then you have to, be believing and obedient and so on. And all of the wives chose to stay. And some of the tradition says the Prophet only thought of divorcing his wives and isolated himself from them for 30 days. But another tradition, which is more likely to be correct in my opinion, says that he actually divorced them all. And he showed no special consideration for Aisha in that, and so on. And the fact that Aisha's father became the Prophet's first successor suggests that, of course, the tradition later likely be viewed in a way favorable to herself. And there are lots of contradictory traditions, and there's a lot of detail in that I know, but I can't be bogged down with that now to share it all with you.